If you're watching this video, I hope you're doing well. Vamos. This is the story all about how my life got switched upside down, and I like to take a watch. Okay. So this is the story of, or not really the story, because this is real shit, you know. But this is me acknowledging. This is me expressing pretty much the next chapter of my life after becoming an emancipated minor. Because I became an emancipated minor, but it's like, and then what? ¿Qué pasó? You know, like what happened? So this is that, except I'm not going to backpedal and give a lot of context as to how I met my legal guardian, or the woman who was, damn it, I do that every time, how I met the woman who was my legal guardian, just because I feel like that's just a lot, and it goes back to, you know, before being emancipated, and that's a whole nother thing, you know, like, it's just a lot of content. So to avoid circling around all of that and just wasting a lot of my breath and my time in this moment, I'm just going to acknowledge the separation. And this is not for my channel. This is because I have a tendency to suppress everything, and I don't realize that I'm harboring anger. I don't realize that I'm harboring distrust. I don't realize that the way in which I operate or navigate in relationships now are definitely tied to the relationships that I severed before. So it's like I have this pattern where when I'm disappointed in a relationship, disappointed in a person, when I sense that what we have or what we had is not something that we can reconstruct, something that's worth the reconstruction even, then I move on. It's not that all of a sudden I turn my heart off or I just don't think about you anymore. It's not like that. Usually the instances that I'm referring to, they've ended in a way where the communication was bad, there was some type of falling out that was distasteful or just bad or ugly, or again, something that I was just really disappointed in. I've had a falling out with someone who was a friend of mine, and I just thought the way that the disconnect happened, it was disrespectful, whatever. It wasn't anything volatile, nobody got hostile or anything like that. It was just something that happened, you know. And then there are the other cases where it was hostile, where the police were called, and regardless of whether things had to get to that point or not, it still happened. And those are the kinds of situations where I walk away from. I don't really have much to say to you. No, correction, I don't have much that is polite or respectful or positive to say to you, and that's why my response is no response. It could also be that I have not processed the way that I feel about you. I know that I don't trust you. I know that I think that you are X, Y, and Z and start the alphabet all over again because you're A, B, C, and then some. But I don't know, and I'm specifically referring to those instances. At this point where I'm silent, where you hear nothing from me, it's because I just don't want anything from you. I was expressing just some shit to somebody, you know, just talking about something. And the person said to me, okay, well, what do you want? What do you want from this person? And I said, nothing. I don't want anything from this person. That's why I'm silent. That's why you don't hear nothing from me. At that point, I am completely unavailable. I'm really on do not disturb. Just, that's where I'm at. And I can't tell you how long I'm going to be in that place because, quite honest, goddammit, I don't really know how long I'm going to be in the place. That's the purpose of me expressing. And the way that I do it happens to be poetry. It happens to be writing. It happens to be music. It happens to come out in the way that I just express myself artistically. So, oh well. The way that I separated from my legal guardian, whew, it was something that happened in a very, it all went wrong, if I'm honest. It went very, very wrong. And even then, I don't know why I thought that it would be seamless. Not easy, but seamless. I don't know why I thought that, because most things weren't when it came to my relationship with her. Most things were not, excuse me, most things were not like easy breezy, cover girl, that kind of thing. Like, it just wasn't. I figured that what I sensed is that my legal guardian, let's just call her my TLG, because she was my temporary legal guardian, right? So I just sensed that my TLG was, had enough of me. Like, she had expressed to me that she felt like I didn't like her at a certain point, and I felt like the feeling was mutual. Not that I ever confirmed or said that I don't like you or anything, but I felt that from her as well. Whether that was the energy she intended to emit or not, that is what I felt. And there's a lot of other things that's wrapped into why people feel the way they feel, and, you know, certain things, and da-da-da, whatever. I didn't expect her to care. I thought that I was going to be able to go into the house, move my stuff, grab, and just go. But that's not what happened. So this is going to be one of those long ass videos. I may break it up into 2 parts. I may say, you know what, god damn it, just watch it. I don't know. Just go with it. I don't know. But I guess it makes the most sense to start with the Thursday night, which I believe was on March 22nd. I'm not going to search it up right now. However, I may correct myself when I'm editing this. But I believe it was Thursday, March 22nd of 2018, when I woke up that morning. I woke up very early because I had had a conversation with my TLG the night before, where she had expressed to me that she was frustrated with me because my food stamps card was something that I had not obtained for like a month, or for months now. Actually, it was taken from me like December 2017 due to some other shit. Like, I could go launch into it, but basically, again, I was an emancipated minor. When I was 16, after I went to the court and everything, they told me to go to the state office or DHS or something like that, the Department of Human Services, and to grab my, or to apply for the food stamps, the emergency food stamp card. And that card is something that went, like, I'm not going to say it went straight to my TLG, but I did hand that over to her because at the time, I felt like it was the least that I could do. What I would have appreciated is something that I'll get to way later, because I'm not trying to go off on a tangent. But at the time, I thought 15-year-old, 16-year-old me, I thought, yeah, let me give her this link card. And yes, so that food stamps card is something that I had since 2015. And it was 2017 in October or something, like, I got contacted and told from the DHS people that, like, you turned 18, you were supposed to reapply. You basically just got like a year's worth of food stamps for free at a rate that you didn't really qualify for. And when I say a rate, I mean like the maximum amount one person can get is $190 something, and I was getting the maximum amount as an emancipated minor. The caseworker's point was that I was no longer an emancipated minor, so there was no reason, or not no reason, but like, I didn't submit a reason. I didn't reapply in which there would have been the opportunity to state why I still deserved that amount. I didn't know that I needed to fucking reapply. I'm not gonna say no, nobody told me that. I just didn't know that I needed to reapply. You know, I thought it was just like, you know, automatic, let it roll over, let's keep the money coming. I'm just kidding. I just didn't know. I, honest to God, didn't know. So not only did these people turn the link card off, they also put it on like a 3-month suspension. And that is where my TLG's frustration started to kick in. Mind you, this was in October or November, something like that. So it wasn't until January, February, March, when I reapplied. Yes, it was in November because in March I was eligible or able to reapply. I reapplied at the beginning of March, and then throughout March, my TLG kept asking me, like, okay, so what's the status with the link card? I think that she thought it was going to be simple. Like when I was an emancipated minor and I walked up in there and we waited in the line, and then I provided the papers from the court, and that woman came with that link card and she said, honey, go to Jewel Osco. I think my TLG thought that it was going to be like, oh, you know, like give her a link card, da da da, because she applied. Like, it doesn't work like that. It worked like that because of my circumstances back then. The reality was that you told the judge you were going to provide for me, you were going to house me, you were going to make sure my basic needs were met. And then I don't know. And I remember having that conversation with her several times. I remember attempting to explain to my TLG, like, they're not going to give me the same amount, and they're not going, like, I can't rush this process. She would ask me for a status update, and like, I'm them. And I'm like, I don't have an update. Like, you have to wait at least 30 days. No one has called me back. So she was becoming more impatient. And it was Wednesday, March 21st. That night I came back from somewhere. I was with somebody, I don't know. But I came back and she was sitting in the chair in the front room, and she asked me about the card. And then she just like started to tell me, like, I'm struggling to understand why you don't want to help. Everybody in this house contributes. And that really got under my skin, because everybody in this house, it's her boyfriend, myself, some dogs, and then Airbnb guests upstairs and down in the basement. So when you say everybody in this house, excuse me, my name is not everybody. Why are you telling me about everybody? And that really gets under my nerves when people want to come up to me and tell me about what somebody else has got going on. Somebody else is not me. Somebody else is not my first or last name. Somebody else cannot tell you about me. Somebody else is not walking in my shoes. Tell me about somebody else when somebody else can tell me about me. Next. I really cannot stand that. It irks my nerves when people want to do that. Like, what the fuck is the significance to me what somebody else has got going on? Lord have mercy. So she oh, Lord have mercy. I'm just like, my gosh, that just gets under my skin, you know? Because it wasn't the first time, and that was like a constant thing with me. Or with her and I. So she tells me, like, everybody in this house is working. I don't understand, like, why you just don't want to go down there and get the link card. And I told her I applied for the card. I was on a suspension. I could not apply before. And she told me, but you can go down there like we did back in 2015. And I told her, I already have an application in. Me going down there is not going to expedite the application. Then she tells me, okay, well, tell them that you need the emergency card. And I told her that I don't have an emergency. Like, you are my caregiver. That is, like, I don't think that, I think that she didn't want to be. I think at a certain point she didn't want me to be her responsibility. I feel or sense that when she felt as if she could not control me, that's when she was like, okay, bitch, well, you can pay for your own self, even though that card was going straight to her. Later on, when she's pressuring me about this card, I realized, okay, this is something that's really important to her. And that is what led to Thursday when I wake up early in the morning. I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to go back and forth with this woman. She told me to go down there and tell them that, I don't want to like put words in her mouth, but what I remember her telling me is to go down there and tell them that I need this emergency card because I'm not working and because I need to be able to provide for myself. And I told her they're going to ask me questions, who I'm living with and stuff. Like, it doesn't work like that. Moving on to Thursday in the morning, it's like 7 o'clock at this point when I'm sitting in the kitchen. I woke up really early because when it comes to these kinds of organizations, like you gotta, like when it comes to the Department of Human Services, human anything, you have to get there really early. And the people who are there really early still like might be those people who are waiting to see the person the next day because they couldn't see somebody the day they originally came. It's that kind of stuff. So many people need help, and who knows how many people are actually in the back doing the work and able to see people and whatever. So yes, I woke up really early. I was eating breakfast. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. She woke up. I think she heard me since I was moving about in the kitchen, which is above where her and her boyfriend slept. So she comes upstairs, and at this point I had already gotten off the phone with the caseworker from DHS. I called the like headquarter office because if you call the local office, you don't ever get to anybody. So I called the like headquarters and I asked them. I explained this is my situation. She asked me these questions, and she said, "I'm asking you the questions that the caseworkers are going to ask you. Where are you living? What bills are you paying for? Da 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 da." And she said, "You don't qualify for no emergency card." And she said, "If you already have a pending application, they're gonna go down there and tell you exactly what I just told you. Don't waste your time." I tell this to my TLG, who is just like, you know what? I just don't understand. I just don't understand why you don't want to contribute, and I'm just really frustrated. She actually cut me off. This woman, I'm explaining to her as the best way that I can, and it's not that I'm building a case as to why I shouldn't have to go. I was dressed and ready to go. The reason I called is because everything in my gut told me that it was a waste of time, and everything in my gut told me to say that and to stand by that. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I've sat in these offices, these DHS, DFS, DCFS. I've sat in these places my entire fucking life. I know how these people operate, or at least enough to know they're not going to give me a damn card if I don't need one. Because there is somebody out there who needs one. And yes, we benefited from the little link card and stuff. And there was the seasonal business, but we were, compared to where I was coming from, we were doing fine without it. Maybe I didn't know the specifications of where we stood financially, but we didn't need an emergency card. I didn't need an emergency card. Or maybe I did, since what she was telling me, what I realized in hindsight is she was telling me she just didn't want to provide for me. So yes, circling back to the incident, she is in the moment like becoming more frustrated, obviously frustrated with me because I appear as if I don't want to go. And I told her, like, I'm dressed, I'm up in the morning, you're making it seem like da 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 da. I don't know what the fuck I said. Just something along those lines of like, obviously I realize this is important to you. I'm trying to tell you, like, we're not gonna get anywhere doing this. And I don't honestly remember how it escalated. I just remember her saying something to me saying something to her, and there being an escalation. It just becoming more and more of like a tit for tat intense kind of thing, where it's like, what are we really upset about here? And I told her, I think I said something to her like, why don't you go down there? You can apply for benefits too, you know, like. And maybe to some people that's disrespectful. But I realize that usually people think you're disrespectful when you don't allow them to disrespect you. That's when they think you're disrespectful. You know, when it's everybody else, you're speaking your mind, you speak your mind. When it's them, oh, she's so disrespectful. Yeah, okay. So maybe to some people, me asking her straight up, person to person, not 19-year-old to like 50-something-year-old, not girl or young lady to woman, but person to person. You break it down to me why it is that you won't go down there to the same office your able-bodied ass can take your ass down there to apply for these benefits. Why don't you? Why is it that I have to do it? Why are you so adamant on telling me to go down there and tell these people that I'm poor? Tell I don't have dignity, I don't have integrity. Tell these people I'm poor. Tell these people that I need food to eat, as if they're dumb, as if they're not gonna ask me like, girl, where you been staying? Like, why can't you go down there and make an ass of yourself in front of these people? Why do you want me to go down there and do that? What does that say about what you think of me? What does that say about how you revere me if you are so quick to be like, oh yeah, tell her to go do it? That's crazy to me, and that's what I tried to get, or that's what I wanted to get across to her, that there was something off about that she was so easily tell me to just go down there and tell these people this lie. I was under the impression that this was my caregiver, that because I was working for her company, I was doing my part, because I was cleaning the toilets and cleaning the rooms that her Airbnb guests were sleeping in. I was doing my part, that I was her little secretary, little assistant, that anything she asked, almost anything that she asked, I would go do it for her. And I thought, okay, as long as I do whatever I can, I'm okay. So I didn't understand why she was so adamant about this card. So then, speaking of this card, because while we're in the kitchen, she says to me, like, this little card, like I said to her, like, why don't you go down there, you can apply too. And she's like, okay, but you're already in the system. I said, it takes 2 seconds for them to put you in the system too. And she has something to say about that. And then I told her, like, I basically said some shit to her, like, you keep on pressuring me about this card. Why don't you go down there and you get one too? I keep on telling you that I'm not going to qualify for one. And she was saying she's not going to qualify for one and what have you. She said, you're talking like your little card does something. She said something like the amount that's on the card isn't enough. It doesn't make an impact or a dent in what we spend on groceries every day. And I said, well, that's not my problem. I'm not the one paying for the groceries. And maybe that was disrespectful. Maybe, but at this point, we're having a real conversation. If we're going to sit here and talk about finances, if we're going to sit here and talk about what part I'm playing, what part you're playing, let's go there. So I said to her, that's not my responsibility. I gave you the card. So if my card is not making a dent, maybe you should question your budgeting. Maybe that's because I don't know what more I can do. I'm not the one shopping. And that's what I said to her. I'm not the one buying the groceries. And that's when I brought up the meat and the cheeses and shit. I circle back to that because I'm not the one sitting around eating meat and cheese and bread. I'm not sitting around eating, and that's no shade, no diss, no nothing to the people who are. My point is that I'm not spending the money getting these things for myself and then complaining to somebody else when I'm not the one providing the money because I can't go out and get these things that's for myself. You want me to have this energy when that card is not being spent the way I would spend it. So I'm doing what I can. I'm going to this system. I'm going to this online application. I'm doing my part. I'm waiting. You want me to call them up and you want them to have the same energy. I don't have that sense of entitlement. That because this is a big deal to me, it must be a big deal to everybody else. No. That's just not where I was coming from. And I think that aggravated her the most. I think that was the root of the frustration. Like I don't know. I don't know. I can only speculate. But that was a very intense moment. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And there was just like a back and forth. And then I start to shake when I am in hostile or tense environments. When I am in a confrontation with someone, I tend to shake. I swear to God, I am not built for the aggressive people and the aggressive environments out there. I'm really not. I think I am so sensitive to that due to the way that I was brought up. I think I experienced enough violence and pain and like physical pain and trauma all over my body, inside of my body. I think that I've become very, very like fragile. Like I'm a really strong person mentally. I can work my way out of some things that like in my lowest moments, I think it's only been my mind. It's only been my ability to focus that has kept me from sabotaging myself. So I know I have something up here that allows for me to stay on the path, even as it, becomes whatever the fuck. So, anywho, it did get to that point where volumes were raised. I specifically remember I started to shake. Mind you, I said I was eating my breakfast. So I'm sitting there and I can't even pick up my fucking fork or whatever. So I just grab the plate and I put it in the refrigerator and I start to call an Uber. And I go into the bathroom. I start to brush my teeth. And she's standing in the doorway. She's just talking and talking and talking at me. She's not talking to me because to talk to someone is to converse with them. Not to conversate, but to converse with them. And at this point, I'm not responding to her. So who are you talking to? So she's just standing there talking at me. And I'm brushing my teeth. She's just telling me how I'm ungrateful, how I'm irresponsible, how I don't want to contribute, and how she can't ever count on me to do anything. Just going off the mantle like, oh, okay. So she just keeps on going, brushing my teeth. I'm done. And mind you, I hate brushing my teeth with somebody like right next to me because all that shit is not cute. Okay? It's just like, but you need to do that because you need to clean your mouth. So it's just like, move. But yeah, I'm just like doing my stuff. I finish. And then I go to turn to go out of the bathroom and she puts her hands up. Now, let me tell you about this. I cannot make this shit up. And I'm glad that there was this experience with this one person. I mean, other people were there, but there's this one person who I still know who had the same experience with my TLG where there was an intense moment. There was a person who was supposed to wash these dishes, and the person didn't wash them. Nobody at the workplace washed them because, mind you, she was my boss. And I said, I'll just do it because we couldn't go home until the place was clean. So I said, I'll just do it. And they said, no, you've done enough today. This person has to do it. My TLG came, had this verbal sparring with him, and he started to get frustrated and intense and red, and he started to cry. And those are the tears of somebody who will knock your ass out. Anybody who starts to cry when they're upset, be afraid of them. It's coming from seeing that violence demonstrated and not knowing how to process it, not knowing what that emotion is, and just wanting to express or explode so you can eliminate it from your body. It's just, it's not healthy. But it's unprocessed rage. And I know it when I see it. And when she's in, what I felt like was just sparring with him. I'm like, leave him alone. At this point, just leave him alone. And of course, I was a bystander. I didn't say anything. Anywho, my point in bringing that up is because when he tried to leave, he tried to remove himself. And you got to give it up to the people who are aware enough of themselves to know when they need to exit, because they are more harm inside of this space than they are outside of it. This person he tried to leave, and she moved in front of the door, my TLG moved in front of the door and put her hands up so he couldn't go. And the rest is history. She called his dad, But I bring that up because the same thing happened when I tried to leave the bathroom. I tried to leave and she puts her hands up and I said, move. I said her name and I said, no, first I said, get out of the way. And she's like, where are you going? We're having a conversation. I said, we are not having a conversation. I am leaving. And I asked her to move out of my way. And I said, once again, move out of my way. And then she wouldn't move. So I began to go around her and she's like, you're getting hostile. You're getting hostile, Star. You're getting hostile. You're getting hostile. Yeah, okay. But you're acting like you can't hear. You're acting like I didn't just ask you and didn't just tell you to move. So I asked you, you didn't respond. I tell you, you don't respond. So when I move myself and happen to move you, I don't understand. The other methods didn't work for you. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Just stand there and let you block me, take up my time, all to do this nothingness, all to do this back and forth? That is your sport, not mine. I prefer badminton. I prefer football, soccer. I'm not about to sit around and play, let's block Starly. No, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. So I get past her, I go into my room. I don't even know what the hell I grabbed. I was probably just stuffing stuff into my backpack, like my computer and whatever. And she started to say things to me that were, I remember, they were insulting. I remember being insulted by the things that she called me. I don't remember exactly what they were. Again, this is back in 2017. It's not like that was 10 years ago, but so many details can get lost like in 5 minutes with me sometimes. So I remember she said things to me, and she said, if you're gonna leave, then don't come back, and leave, and don't take anything that I've given you. That's what she said to me. She may say, oh, that's not what she said, because that was her tagline. Oh, I never said that, I never said that, I never said that. Easiest way people would try to get out of something. I never said it, never said it, never said it. Okay, so then what the fuck did you ever say? That's my response. So I remember her saying to me that if I left, that I could not come back, and that I had to leave everything. She specifically told me to leave the phone. And what she didn't know, it's not the same phone, never mind. What she didn't know is that her sister gave me the 5S, or the 5. Her sister gave me the 5. I bought myself the 5S like a year later. So she wasn't aware of that because I paid for it. Why did I need to tell her that? There was like I did have a tendency to go to her and sort of like tell her things as if I was asking her permission. Like, I would tell you, but it would sound like I'm asking you for your permission because of my tone. And I did that with her, not knowing like where her guardianship stood. Like, even though I was in control, let me say something, you are in control of the way, not of how people will treat you, but what you tolerate, what you allow. People do to you what you allow. Okay, I didn't realize what that meant and the power of that. Like, it's one thing to hear something and go, It's another thing to hear something and go, come on, somebody. Because it just resonates with your bone marrow. People will do to you what you allow them to do. So the first time, or even the second time, because sometimes you need that extra encouragement. Even the second time, you got to cut that shit out. You got to say, no, ma'am. No. Because if you don't express, believe it or not, some people are clueless. Some people are slow. At times I am too. Some people are just slow, and they don't realize that you cannot do to people all types of fuck shit without their permission. So you have to tell them, hey, I didn't allow you to do that. Don't do it again. It's not, can you not no, don't do it again. You have to practice saying that. It has to come from your diaphragm. But that's another thing. With my legal guardian, or with my TLG, just circling back to the incident, when she said, oh, like, leave the phone, I said, this is my phone. I paid for this phone. I went into the closet where the rest of my stuff was, and I grabbed the phone from this box. I put it on the table. I didn't give it to her. I put it on the table. I said, there's your sister's phone. And she thought, okay, like, well, that didn't work. Let me try something else. Let me get even louder. Let me just run her out of the house. And for the parents, I just want to like give a quick shout out to the parents or to the guardians and the caregivers out here, the independents with dependents who, in the heat of the moment, decide to take away the provisions they offer their dependents, their children, take away the very things they know that their children use to thrive. It's amazing to me how the same people who will be like, I love you and I care for you, the moment you stop being what they want you to be is the moment they're turning off your only way to communicate, turning off your cell phone. They're turning off, kicking you out of the house. That was my TLG's tagline, along with I don't remember. It was leave. She told me to leave a total of 3 times. I just didn't take her up on the offer until the 3rd time. But I should have left the first time. I should have just kept with it. That was my own bad. I just think it's amazing how people will be like, I care about you so much, and then just retract everything they've ever given you. Take away everything, and I have more on that later. But yeah, I just wanted to say shout out to you for being like, then leave the phone. So you mean to tell me the same person that you love and you care about, you are about to tell me to go out into the street and leave and don't come back, and you want me to keep my phone? So if I had not been smart enough to buy a phone that I actually own, then I would have been walking around these streets with absolutely no way of communicating unless somebody lets me borrow their phone to call. Like, are you serious? And I'm supposed to believe you care about me? I'm supposed to believe you love me? I'm supposed to believe I'm your family? I don't know, maybe I'm a different breed. I just don't imagine that if I care about someone, I'm providing for someone, even in the heat of the moment, you have to learn to communicate with people. You can't be 40 years old, 50 years old, 30 years old. You've been given the opportunity every single day. You're given the opportunity to be a better person, to work on yourself. Do you know how many people's lives get cut short? They don't even have the opportunity to go say sorry to the person they used to bully. You do. You have the opportunity to be better, to learn, and then share that wisdom with other people. And you shit on that. You shit on the great spirit, the God, whatever you praise. You shit on that entity every time you take it for granted, every time you take advantage of that, every time you do the same bullshit that you know is self-sabotaging, that you know is detrimental to your well-being and to mine and to everyone else's. It's really hard for me to respect people like that. And I'm nowhere near fucking perfect. Absolutely not. But I don't know people who hear that they've been harmful to someone. I don't know people who hurt other people or who have been hurt by other people. And then they carry that same energy year after year, day after day, month after month, relationship after relationship. Like, what are you doing? Are you not learning? Are you not applying anything? Are you not seeing where you are the common denominator? It's just quite ridiculous to me. Damn ridiculous, honestly. Damn ridiculous. Then for me, it's like I don't understand how I just didn't hear her the first time. I don't understand how I could keep telling myself that it was just nonsense, that it would get better. At first I told myself that she was this way because her ex-husband was who he was, and her ex-husband had his own really toxic energy, unprocessed rage and whatnot, and that energy was something that sat in the house. So in the beginning, I thought, okay, maybe there's this disconnect. Maybe we're not getting along. Maybe there's tension because she's my boss on top of my caregiver. So what happens at the workplace, I can't be upset about when we're at home because she's no longer my employer. Everything that she ever gave me, for her to say to me, oh, well, then leave it behind. Leave, don't come back and don't take anything that I've ever given you. What does that say about everything that you've ever given me? What does that say about anything that you give anyone? It's just, there's no coming back from any of this at this point in my brain. Because I see her little, oh, let me block your way kind of stuff. Like, oh, she wants to fight. Like, girl, come on now. I don't understand how people can listen to somebody say like, oh, I went to jail or I grew up in an abusive home and try them. Like, if somebody tells me that they grew up in an abusive place, why would I ever try to provoke them? She grew up in a physically, whatever type of environment, a hostile environment, that's clear. I grew up in a hostile environment. So what do we look like really trying to box? Like, do you want to be in the ER today? Do I look like I want to be in the ER today? I'm just like, I don't understand. But at this point, I don't want to. And the reason I don't understand is probably because I'm very different from you. Because this whole let's get in my face, let's tell me to leave. And I did. I walked out of the house. She followed me out of the house. I got into my Uber and I went down to the library. I realized I'm venting, so I'll just move on. I went down to the library and I was there for a long time. I was there from 8 o'clock in the morning all the way into the evening. And I don't remember when I realized my phone had been turned off. She sent me messages, long ass messages. I'm not going to go back to them, and I ignored them because this was the pattern. I leave. When she tells me to leave, I go find somewhere to cool off, go sit with my friends and shit. And I get messages about my behavior. And the messages They don't have any sense of accountability. There is no, oh, I'm going to take ownership. And let me tell you something about accountability. There is a difference between blaming yourself. I remember I said to someone, you have to see where you can hold yourself accountable in this situation. And this person was like, but I did blame myself. I used to blame myself. And I'm like, nobody said anything about blaming yourself. Blaming is looking at fault. Who's at fault in the situation? I said accountability. Accountability is who is responsible for this? Who is responsible for that? So when I say these messages don't have any type of I'm going to take ownership for da da da, I don't know, maybe I'm entitled to expect that from or to want that, but that's what I would give you. And I'm not settling for shit that I wouldn't give somebody else. Those days are over. So if I'm going to respond to you in a moment where you tell me I hurt you or something like that, then I'm going to say to you, okay, this is, I hold myself responsible for da 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 da. I take ownership for da 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 da, however I want to phrase it. Because I understand that's all you're looking for. That's why when people say I apologize, take that shit somewhere else. Oh, I'm sorry. What does that mean? So you feel something. I'm really glad that you feel something. But what are you really saying to me? When you tell me, oh, I apologize if I made you, what the fuck does that even mean? If I made you feel, I just told you you made me feel something. I just told you, and you don't want to take responsibility for it. I understand in those cases where you don't see where you've done something, done harm to someone, but even that is problematic. I told my legal guardian, my TLG, time and time again, when she did something or said something to me, not all the time, not often enough, but there were moments where I would tell her, and definitely when all this function went down, I expressed to her, like, you're pressuring me about da 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 da. She didn't own up to any of that. So if you can't even see how, like, I've broken down to you, bro, and I speak English, so I broke down to you that I've done this, I've done that, I've applied, I waited out the suspension, I've applied, I've just contacted this person, da 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 da, and you still you can't comprehend. So at that point, it's not that you can't hear me, it's not that you don't understand, it's really just that you want what you want, and I don't know what to tell you at that point. So yeah, circling back to the library, I tend to rant. I said this was going to be super long. Circling back to the library. So I'm in the library, and I tell, at this point I'm texting my friends, and I was just talking to these people about what had happened the last time some function went down, which was in the winter of 2017. They were made aware of that, and yeah, so when I told them about this, it was no surprise at all, and they were telling me whatever they could, communicating with me, but there was a delay. There was one person who responded sooner and with like an offer, with some kind of like, okay, well, this is what you can do. And this person, I'm going to give the name Outlet.